We're live with another solo episode of the Endless Endeavor podcast. And this week's show is going to be just me talking about some stuff, some current events, and more than my desire to talk about this stuff, I've had a lot of people hitting me up lately and they're like, hey, when do we get another Rant cast? And it's kind of interesting because, yeah, it's fun to talk about shit that fires us up, and it's fun to get into all the stuff that's happening in the world that just seems like absolute fucking madness. And I like doing that too. And when I'm sitting around campfires with my friends, we talk about all this shit too, just like we do on the show. And so it's like everything in life, though. It's a dichotomy, right? I don't want to be an ostrich with my head in the sand and not be looking to the media or watching what's going on social media and just having an understanding of how people are behaving and agendas that people are pushing. But the other side of that is if I focus on that too much and I allow all that stuff to keep me in a triggered state or keep me fired up all the time, then what I'm doing on the other side of the coin is I'm allowing all this bullshit that's happening in our society to keep cortisol rushing through my veins and keep me mad and keep me fired up. And so, again, just like every other aspect of your life, there's a balance. I want to understand what's going on in the world that we live in, but I also don't want to find myself consumed by it. The things that I want to be consumed by are the things that I have the ability to affect, that I have the ability to change. And as this podcast grows and we get more and more listeners, this is kind of a new journey for me. And this is something that, to tell you the truth, it's kind of bizarre that I have a bunch of people listening to the things that I share and my ideas. And I like it. It's been a fun journey so far. I've made a lot of new friends, and I can tell you, sitting down with people and having 2 to 3 hour conversations about an array of topics has been rewarding, and it's cool. And so I'm going to keep doing this podcast for as long as I can. But the other side of it is I get a lot of emails and I get people asking me questions. I get recognized in public sometimes, which is just, it's still bizarre, right? People come up like, oh my God, Greg Anderson, dude, you're awesome. And I haven't got anybody hating on me yet face to face, but I'm sure that day will come too. But the point is, as this show grows, my life is changing where there's a certain amount of people that look to me as, I guess, an influencer. And, Mike Glover made a post the other day, and I thought he summed it up perfectly. He said, I don't consider myself an influencer. I don't he doesn't look at himself as anything special, right? But then he said, but the numbers say otherwise. There's a lot of people that download his podcast or follow him on Instagram and like what he shares. And so it's at a certain point, you have to realize I've created a big enough following that my words do matter and that I do have the ability to influence others or share ideas that are on a larger stage than other people. And it just is what it is. And so I was actually in Montana last week, and I was talking to a friend about this around the campfire. And that's what she said to me. She's like, Greg, you got to realize you have 80,000 people following you. You're over 300,000 downloads on your podcast. People are hearing your voice, and you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't acknowledge the position that you're in. And so I guess as this journey continues, I'll keep dissecting that and going through that. But it's just kind of interesting because I've never looked at myself as someone who has the answers or someone that people should be looking to for guidance. And when I open up my podcast for Q&As, I get a lot of people asking me questions. Now, why is it that most people that are in a position like mine find themselves average at best? Andy Stumpf talks about that a lot on Cleared Hot. If you're a fan of Cleared Hot, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He says he was average at best, and he was fortunate enough to walk amongst giants. And I think that's how I feel too. When it comes to my military career, when it comes to my jiu-jitsu career, I was a pretty good ranger. I'm pretty good at jiu-jitsu. But then I look to the men that were to my left and my right as I went through these different journeys in life, and I feel, just like he says, average at best. And I know a lot of people in the special operations community and the athletic world. Really, anyone that starts to find success, I feel like it's even surprising to us. And so it's a very opposite approach as people that are fishing for compliments. I'm the last person that wants people to tell me how great I am or tell me I have good jiu-jitsu or tell me I was a good ranger. Like, that's not what I'm looking for at all. I'm just giving honesty about how I feel on these different pursuits. And it makes me wonder, I think there's a portion of your mindset that has to be rooted in, I'm not good enough. I'm always going to suck unless I put in a tremendous amount of work. The guys to my left and right of me are better, and I'm striving to be as good as them to impress them. I'm striving to be a valuable member of this team. I'm striving to contribute. And if you already think you're the shit and you got this down, then I think you're putting yourself in a position where showing the people around you that you are trying your hardest to be a valuable member of the team. I think it's easy to find yourself in a position where, hey, if you think you got it, then you've stopped growth. And if you're in a position where you think you've made it, now you've arrived at a destination, that means the journey's over, right? So the journey always has to continue. And I think that's why I named this podcast The Endless Endeavor, because no matter how long you've done something, no matter how good you are at it, no matter how many skill sets you have, no matter how you performed previously in athletics or combat or music, that's the past. And that's great if you did good. But if you're content with what you did there, then the journey's over. That means you've arrived at the destination. And I think it's okay to arrive at the destination on certain things, but that probably means that portion of your life is behind you, and now you're moving on to something different. Anybody that trains jiu-jitsu will tell you it is never ending. And to tell you the truth, that is one aspect that is so powerful and compelling about jiu-jitsu. Because just when you think you've arrived at a place or at a level that you start to feel a little bit of, you start to become content. When I was a brown belt, that was the first time I started to feel very content. I was a brown belt in Seattle, good athlete, big, strong, good gas tank. And I started to become a big fish in a little pond. And I remember to this day, I started thinking, dude, I got this jiu-jitsu thing figured out. Well, I had that jiu-jitsu thing figured out because I had figured out how to beat the group of men that I was training with. And very rarely would I lose. And it got to a point where if you don't lose and you're not challenged hard enough, you start to think you have it figured out. And then I moved to Southern California. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, a Seattle brown belt in Los Angeles, California, man, not even on the same, you can't even compare the two. High level competition circuits down there, blue belts and purple belts that were absolute murderers. And I had my hands full. And so I feel like I've been through enough scenarios like that in my life where I felt like, hey, I'm starting to get this. Boom. No, you still fucking suck. That I've now arrived at a place where I know in my heart, hey, it doesn't matter how good you get. There's still a lot of room for growth. And if you don't think that, then you're telling yourself a lie. But at 40 years old, I would say for the first time in my life, I am now coming to a new phase of my life where I feel, hey, I have put 20 years into shooting and tactics. I have put 18 years on the mat. And now I feel like I'm starting to find comfort when eyes are on me and people are saying, hey, what do you think of this? Or how should I do that? And really, I think the only way that you gain that is an instructor's position. I tell everybody, it doesn't matter what your skill set is. If you put yourself in a position where you have to teach it to others, that does you just as much of a service as it does to the people that are learning from you. You have to break things down in a manner that is very different when I have to show you something. There's a lot of nuances in the things that we do. And it doesn't matter if it's shooting, if it's fighting, if it's really anything. You don't know and understand the nuances until you have to teach this to somebody else. And even in Montana last week, I went and I trained with Andy Stumpf at the Straight Blast Gym in Kalispell. And for anybody wondering, we're just going to put this out right now. I've been training jiu-jitsu for 18 years. Andy Stumpf has been training jiu-jitsu for 3, and he is a fucking problem. He is really, really fucking good. And the reason I say that is because, again, Andy doesn't give himself credit. And so I'm here to give him the credit. We rolled 3 rounds, and, going into it, I had the idea that he was going to be very good because he got a purple belt very quickly. He also has a special operations background, which means his mindset is strong. It means he has the student of the game mentality. But then also with his extensive CrossFit background, I know he's a good athlete on top of it. So motivated learner, good athlete. He has the package to be a fucking problem on the mats. And sure enough, he was. And it was fucking awesome to see firsthand and to kind of confirm my suspicions. But yeah, we had a great time out there. And I was showing the coach that was running that class. Her name is Leah Taylor. She is one of the Straight Blast Gym black belts in Kalispell. She was actually out of town. I believe he said she was teaching a seminar somewhere in Idaho. And so he asked if I'd cover class, and I was honored to. It was cool. And I showed some closed guard transitions to butterfly, and then a couple sweeps and a back take. And even after doing this, I opened my gym in 2015. So I've been coaching jiu-jitsu now for 6 years. And even then, some of the stuff I was teaching, I would show it and talk through it. And then they would, Andy asked me a question. Well, here, show me this so I can feel you do it. And I would see the angle that I would cut. Just a slight angle, get on my hip a little bit, shrimp a little more this direction as opposed to that direction. And that's what I said. I said, see, this is why teaching is so important, because the things that I am doing in real time, I'm not conveying because you don't even really understand it. You're simply going through the motions of what you have honed through thousands of hours of rolling. But your own abilities don't translate to others unless you can dissect and break down every little detail. That's one lesson I continuously learn, and it's just cool. So we're already going off on tangents. I love it. That's what I love about podcasting. We can talk about whatever we want. We can take this show in any direction we want. And that's what we're going to do. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about, some of the stuff that we've seen in the media. And again, I don't take a lot of pleasure in berating people or talking shit on people. I do that I do that when I think it's necessary. I think it's necessary for Americans to be fired up when they say they're going to take our guns away. I think it's necessary for Americans to be fired up when we hear this overarching theme in our media that masculinity is a bad thing. Fuck, masculinity. If it wasn't for masculinity, we wouldn't even have a country. Masculinity is what caused men back in the Revolutionary War days to say, you know what? Fuck the king. We're going to do what we want. He can fuck himself. You know that the conversations were almost verbatim. Why are we paying that motherfucker taxes? He's on the other side of the world. Fuck that guy. If enough people get together and have that fired up approach to tyranny or oppression, that's how we put an end to it, right? So that's why we need to talk about these things, and we do need to have a fired up approach, because we are reaching a time in American history where enough people have to get together and say, you know what? Fuck you. And it feels good. Of course it feels good, right? Getting fired up always feels good. But it's also necessary. If there wasn't men and women willing to step up, draw that hard line and say, fuck you, we'd all be slaves, right? There would be a finite amount of people that would gain the control. They would hold the control, and everybody else would just fucking cower to them and do what they say. And if you don't think that we're potentially approaching a time like that in American society, I don't think you're being honest with yourself. The fucking things that we are seeing take place in our country are baffling, and they should make you kind of turn your head and say, what the fuck is going on here? And why are these people doing it? Taking the guns away. Masculinity is bad. We're going to dissect some of this stuff and unpack it a little bit. But it's just a crazy place that we've arrived at. You know, I did that episode, You Can Take My Life, but You Will Never Take My Freedom. Shout out William Wallace. And a lot of people like that episode. But that's why. Because everybody's seeing this crazy shit happening, and not a lot of people are talking about it. The mainstream media isn't talking about it, at least, you know? And so what do we see this week? We see another attack on guns. And I don't understand. I needed a drink of Element so I can go on this rant. I don't understand why this administration continuously just attacks gun ownership with nothing but lies and deception. And we've talked about it before, guys. What is the overarching theme of why this administration wants to see guns taken away? I have to draw one conclusion, is that a de-armed population is a compliant population. And we are not a compliant people. We are a defiant people. This country was founded on defiance, and I consider it an obligation. I mean, plenty of men and women have died securing our freedoms throughout time. And you can say, oh, well, the Vietnam War was kind of bullshit. Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm not going to argue with you. I even feel that way to a certain extent about the wars that I served in. But I'm talking overall, from the inception of America through the world wars, men and women have been defiant. Men and women have said, fuck you. And that is why we have what we have. That is why this utopia that we call America exists. I talk about it to my daughters all the time because they're out of touch with reality. And they should be out of touch with reality. They're 6, 9, and 12. They get fixated on having these certain like pleasures and leisures in life that are not based in reality. They are based in this utopia that we have created. And I like it. I'm happy that we're here. But if we lose the perspective of reality, I think that that's going to be the downfall or the potential downfall of our country. And I think that that's the place we're arriving at. You know, when you have men storming the beaches in World War II, those boats, the ramps were dropping. There's German bunkers with machine guns just chewing people up. What did those first waves? I mean, I'm not going to give a percentage because you know what? I am, but I'm probably off. It's just a speculation. But the first waves of the boats to hit the beaches, what was the survivability of those men? Was it 5%? Was it 10%? I mean, think about that. Think about going in any type of daily activity. You know what? Hey, I'm going to go do this with my morning. There's a 10% chance I'm going to live. What kind of courage would it take to continue on and push forward and do that? And the men that did that, knowing there's a much greater chance that I die today than I see tomorrow, man, that's fucking heavy. That's heavy. But the reason that they did it is because it's a necessity. Not all wars that are fought are necessities, okay? I'm the first to agree with you on that. Especially in modern day, are the political elite that are pulling the strings of our country's, our worldwide footprint and what we're doing. There's a lot of pieces of shit that are in a place that they get to determine what the armed forces, what the men and women that sign that dotted line get to do. We can talk about that another day. But the reality of what those men and women do is they say, hey, I'm willing to put it all on the line. You tell me where and when, and I will go there and I will put it all on the line. We have to have men and women that are willing to do that. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be in the armed forces. Yes, that's where you can go to hone that skill and more likely than not get deployed and see combat. And I know things are winding down. It's we had a 20-year run where we were getting it on. If you went in the military, you were going to be getting it on. Things have slowed down, but everybody should have that mentality, regardless whether you want to go into the military or not. You need to understand there may come a time in my life where I need to put it all on the line, and I need to be defiant, and I need to draw a hard line, and I need to say, fuck you to anybody. And I think it's important that we talk about this. I think it's important that you think through these possible scenarios in your head and say, you know, what am I going to do if this happens? What am I going to do if that happens? Now, the reason that I'm talking about this again is because the administration won't drop it on the gun stuff. They won't drop it on the gun stuff. I don't necessarily know what they hope to cause. It's almost like they want to push people to a tipping point. Keep pushing people. You're going to find that tipping point. And then what they don't realize is they're not going to be able to handle that tipping point. I don't know if you guys remember a man named, I think it was Jeffrey Dorner. And I was living in Los Angeles when this happened. And he went on a shooting spree and killed a couple people. And the whole fucking state shut down. I remember I was trying to get on the 91 freeway that morning. And it was like a 6-hour backup. Police officers were fucking shooting cars that just matched a description. And it was craziness from one man who was not well trained and didn't have like a well thought out plan that he was following. It was just one fucking guy that had lost his shit and started shooting some people. Imagine what would happen if 100 men did that. 100 capable men said, you know what, we've had enough, and we're going to put together a militia, and we're going to seize this building, right? I'm telling you, if the government doesn't think that American citizens are capable and that American citizens are the most dominant force inside of this country, they're not being honest with themselves. They are telling themselves a lie to keep themselves happy and to keep themselves feeling secure. And the reason I bring this up is because Biden, once again, said the most inflammatory statement that you could imagine. If you think you're going to take on the government, you're going to need F-15s, which are all but fucking decommissioned at this point, fuckface, and nuclear bombs. What? What? What are you talking about? You're going to need, if you want to take on the United States government. So this is what he's saying by that. If you think that you have a shot at taking on the U.S. military with rifles, you don't have a chance to fight us. You're going to need jets, you're going to need fighter jets and nuclear weapons. I am shocked that every fucking media outlet across the country doesn't have that on a fucking running loop. That proves to me we already know that motherfucker is going crazy. And guess what? My dad died of dementia. It took him 8 years, and I watched the decline. I know exactly what it's like when someone in your family loses their cognitive ability slowly but surely, and it progresses, and then one day it takes their life. I've witnessed that whole journey. I had a front row seat to that entire journey. If you don't think this motherfucker's on that journey, then you've never lived it. It's clear as day. But for him to just sit up there, I don't care if he's sick or not. If he's sick and his party's allowing him to say this shit, then guess what? You better you're going to be responsible for the words that you allow to come out of his mouth. We all know he's a puppet. We all know, I mean, fuck, how many different instances have we seen where he is told what to say? And then he just fucking, like he walked by and goes, salute the Marines. He turned to him and he said that. Clear as day. Someone's in his ear, literally saying, you're walking by the Marines, okay, salute the Marines. And instead of saluting the Marines, he says, salute the Marines. We know someone's in his ear, right? But regardless, if he's going to stand on the big stage and he's going to say these things, then he needs to be the one that takes the heat for it. And when you say you're going to need F-15s and nuclear weapons to fight the U.S. government, fuck you, okay? Fuck you. If you want to fucking be inflammatory and you want to fucking cause a division amongst the American people and you want to say, if you want to take on us, meaning the US government, then you better have this. And see, this is why I get so fired up about it, because true leadership, and I've worked under some of the best leaders imaginable. Rod Richardson, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with him, but go ahead and Google him. Lieutenant Colonel Rod Richardson, Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel. Savage. That guy was my project manager in, I think it would have been 06 in Baghdad. And he ended up getting killed. Cut in half by an Iranian EFP. And he led from the front. He was always in the trenches with his men. And I understand leadership at the highest level, not because I was a leader at the highest level, but I was a good subordinate and I worked for men that I looked up to. And this is how you know that they're good leaders. I would give my blood for what they say. Hey, Greg, I need you to do this. It's super fucking dangerous. We need to go here. This is why. Roger that. I got it. Leadership needs to make you feel like we're in this together. The mission is our mission we are sharing. I am in a appointed position of leader, be it team leader, be it fucking company commander, brigade commander, whatever the position is, I am in this position. This is an appointed position that I have earned. But make no mistake, just because I'm at the top and you're at the bottom, we're on the same team, and this is the objective. And these are the objectives that we need to accomplish together. The second that a leader, and I don't care if you're talking military, I don't care if you're talking political, I don't care if you're talking stocking shelves at Walmart at 2 a.m. with the night shift crew. If the leader of the night shift crew at Walmart makes you feel like it's us and them, then the mission doesn't get accomplished to the degree of success that it could have. The key to leadership is showing your people we are all in this together. I'm in charge this time. I get to call the shots, but we're in this together. And you know what we're in this together means? We're in this together means I have your best interest in mind. Period. Leadership, I talk about it a lot on this show because Jocko breaks down military leadership principles and applies them to the corporate world. And he's becoming super fucking successful. Why? Because it's truth and because it works. Leadership is not this crazy, convoluted, fucking murky water that you have to tread through, and you don't understand, like, oh, well, in this instance I should do this, and in this instance I should do that, and it's confusing and it's changing, and you're having to like build alliances and manipulate people. All that shit is created by not adhering to simple leadership principles. Simple leadership principles. We're in this together. Take care of your men. Take care of your people. Take care of your team. Make them feel like it's a team. When I got promoted to E5, that's bottom of the food chain leadership, right? It's your first step as an NCO. I started to understand these principles. 21-year-old E5 in the Ranger Regiment. Well, I got 4 or 5 people underneath me. I guess I need to build alliances with these people, build relationships, make them feel valued, show them that I care about them. Just some basic fucking human interaction principles that you should be applying. We're tribal creatures. If you don't give that to people, if they don't feel that connection, you're not part of their tribe. So make them feel like you're part of their tribe. And I'm not saying we're selling snake oil. Do and act and behave in a way that is authentic. Make them a part of your tribe. Make them a priority. Let them know you have their back. Share the mission with them. So anytime I hear a politician say like us versus them, like fucking Biden saying, if you want to take on us, you better have this. He's putting himself in a completely different category. We're not even on the same team. You just put us on different teams, motherfucker. And you did it on purpose. If you want to take on us, you're going to need this weapon. You're going to need that weapon. All right. Well, since you've created two teams, you can now fuck yourself. And I'm completely content fighting a war against the U.S. government with AR-15s. I'm content with that. If that scenario ever plays itself out, I will fucking laugh when I see the success that citizens with the fucking spirit of defiance, they're willing to meet the resistance and able to take a stand against all the bullshit that's getting pushed down our throats. When the people have stood up and say we've had enough, you're going to see it's not that simple. You have your F-15s and you have nuclear bombs. And apparently by saying that, you're threatening to use those against us. So use them against us, motherfucker. I dare you. Use those weapons against the American people like you're fucking saying you're willing to do. This isn't me being crazy on the Endless Endeavor podcast. That motherfucker said that this week. So if you are willing to use fighter jets and bombs against American people, fucking do it. Quit talking shit. Fucking do it. I dare you. And what you're going to find is the spirit and the ideology is what can't be defeated. That is what can't be defeated. You can take people's physical bodies away. Men and women have been doing that to each other since the beginning of fucking mankind. But can you take our ideology away? No, you can't. And if you can't take our ideology away, then you can't win. That is why Vietnam was a shit show. That is why 20 years into Afghanistan, we still haven't had a clear and concise victory. It's easy. I shouldn't say it's easy, but it is measurable and it is obtainable to defeat uniformed military. When we're fighting the German army, hey, it's a numbers game, right? And we capture people or they surrender or we kill this many. And then one day, one side decides, you know what? We're losing. We're going to put the white flag up. You won, we lost. War's over. We call a truce. Okay? That's when uniform military fights uniform military. That's not what we're looking at here. We're looking at a population of people that feels our liberties and our constitutional rights are being chipped away at and are being stripped away. And now you're threatening, if you guys think that you're ever going to stand up and protect your rights and your futures and your children's futures, and you want to secure a healthy future, if you think you're ever going to do that, we will fucking bomb you with airplanes. So sit the fuck down, shut your mouth, and be a good little boy. If you don't interpret that any other way, well, you know what? If you do, please share with me. If you're on the left or you support Joe Biden or you're anti-gun, even if you're anti-gun, you don't think that the American people need guns, please write me an email and describe how the sitting president can threaten us with fucking airplanes and bombs. And then the other side of it is with the fucking deer wearing flak jackets or whatever his fucking senile ass is saying. I get more and more irritated every day when people talk about the Second Amendment and somehow equate that to hunting. Can we just be done with that? I don't care if you're on the right, if you're on the left, whoever you are. I don't care what your stance is on firearms ownership. It has nothing to do with hunting. Nobody on either side thinks it has anything to do with hunting. So why the fuck does the president continue to get up there and say, you don't need 30 rounds to kill a deer? No, motherfucker. We're well aware of that. No one's ever said that. No one's ever disputed that. I need 30 rounds and the ability to switch to another 30 rounds quickly if fucking men are pushing tyranny into my communities. That's what I need 30 round magazines for. That's what the Second Amendment was created for. Let's not pretend we're talking about something other than what we're talking about. It's very clear. So listen to this. This was last week. I've been ranting on it for 10 minutes or whatever, but I want you guys to hear it. It's crazy. All right. So, boom, boom.
The blood of patriots, you know, and all the stuff about how we're going to have to move against the government. Well, the tree of liberty is not water with the blood of patriots. What's happened is that there never been, if you wanted to think you need to have weapons to take on the government, you need F-15s and maybe some nuclear weapons. The point is that there's always been the ability to rationally limit the type of weapon that can be owned and who can own it.
Okay, so I think most of us can kind of, through that fucking, that I barely consider that rant English, but we get his gist. We get what he's trying to say. And I'll tell you, like, not to go off on too many side tangents, but it blows my mind that any single person, any single listener on this show could call me right now and I could ask you and say, hey, Steve, my name's Greg. Nice to meet you. Why do you think people should own weapons? Or why do you think people should not own weapons? And I would guess that 99% of the people that are on listening to this podcast as we speak could articulate a few sentences clearly and concisely on why or why not they support this issue. Why is the leader of the free world unable to articulate thoughts, unable to speak clear and concise sentences? Oh, fuck. I was a product of public education. And then I went to school, or I went to college for sports and exercise science. And I haven't done public speaking. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have a background in like English, but for some reason I can put a microphone in front of my face and I can share what I'm thinking. I don't think that it's a skill to sit down and share what you're thinking with a microphone in front of your face. If your brain works and you can convey your thoughts and they come out of your mouth as words, now I can share my perspectives with other human beings. I don't think that that's an admirable skill set. I think that that's a necessity of being a fucking human. So the fact that he needs to sit up there with cards and earpieces and teleprompters, it just reiterates that he is nothing more than a puppet. You know, when they decided to make him the front runner for the DNC, I was shocked, fucking shocked. Because, and I always catch flack every time I say Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is a real human being. Regardless if you agree with her policy or not, that woman can sit down with you. She can articulate her ideas. She can have a very intelligent conversation. She has a good heart. Well, that's why she was the first to be fucking wiped off the slate. Get her out of here. Even Bernie Sanders, love or hate Bernie Sanders. And I'm not a fan of Bernie Sanders. I'm a conservative. Most of you guys know that. But I listened to Bernie Sanders on Joe Rogan. And again, love or hate Bernie Sanders, he can share what he believes to be his truth. And I don't care how convoluted it is or how fucked up it is. You know where Bernie Sanders stands on stuff, right? Now, go down the list of everybody else that was in the primaries. No matter how much you don't like them as a person, no matter how much you dislike their policy, I would argue that every single one of them could have a conversation and articulate thought and articulate ideas at a much higher level than Biden. And that's why I was absolutely shocked when they said, you know what, he's going to be the one. But it makes you think now this has to be all by design, right? So his little rant about needing F-15s and nuclear weapons, I listened to it and I wrote it out verbatim. Every single word, I wrote it out, because if any other world leader or person in the media was on stage with a microphone in front of their face and they articulated the idea like he did, in the manner that he did, you'd never hear the end of it. But he gets a pass. And so I wrote it out and I'm going to read it. And I want you guys to listen to this and just think about how asinine it is that this is where we're at. This is how the president conveys his threatening ideas to the American people. Those who say the blood of the blood of patriots, and all that stuff about how we're going to have to move against the government. Well, the Tree of Liberty is not watered with the blood of patriots. What's happened is that there never been, if you want to, you think you need to have weapons to take on the government, you need F-15s and maybe some nuclear weapons. The point is, there's always been the ability to rationally limit the type of weapon that can be owned and who can own it. And then he goes on to call weapons manufacturers merchants of death. I mean, I can't even say that without laughing, because first Armalite rifle, AR, are now assault rifles. Sounds a little scarier. An AR-15 assault rifle. And it's just this massive fucking media-driven campaign to make people afraid of these weapons. And then, you know what? Assault rifle doesn't, that became just normal verbiage now. So now when you're talking about an AR-15, people on both sides of the fence will call it an assault rifle because their little campaign worked, and that became normal to refer to that rifle as an assault rifle. So they're no longer, we need something more triggering, weapons of war. And so now they're calling them weapons of war. And the people that sell weapons of war are merchants of death. It's fucking comical. It's comical that people give these people the platform and the ability to create and spew these narratives. But the thing that's sad about it is then it becomes reality in people's minds. You know, for people that maybe aren't on one side of the political spectrum or the other, and they bounce back and forth between CNN and Fox News, and they're just trying to get an overall picture, and they hear these things, that has the potential to become their reality. And so you hear the fucking president up there saying 5% of weapon dealers are responsible for the weapons that kill. I forget exactly the numbers he said, but he said 5% of the weapons dealers are responsible for the guns that are sold that commit the overall majority of crime in this country. Lie, lie, lie. We all know that's lies. The other side of it is, and we've talked about this before on the show, this fucking fixation on going after rifles, when rifles are responsible for less than 2% of homicides. Bricks and fist and feet are a higher percentage of death than rifles. And I'm not going to break this down by the FBI statistics because I've done that before on the air, but go there, go to FBI.gov, go to homicide statistics. Handguns are something like 45% of homicides are conducted with a handgun. Nobody cares about handguns, even though they're by far the most violently used weapon in our society. But I'll tell you why they don't care. They don't care because almost all firearm related crime is in the hood. It's gang driven and it's drug driven. And let's be honest, politicians only care about fucking low income areas during the election cycle. Black lives only matter during an election cycle. And it sucks that we have to relearn this over and over and over again. But yeah, has anyone seen anything about BLM since the election? No, because nobody fucking cares. They got their votes and now they're in power, and now fuck BLM. And I mean, I'm always of the mindset, fuck BLM. But what I'm saying is the people on the left that promote all these ideas, as soon as they're in power, they don't care anymore. What are you doing for the hood? What are you doing for low income people of color? What are you doing? Show us. It's easy to sit up here and say, oh, well, conservatives are white supremacists and they don't care about black people. And it's just all triggering bullshit. None of it's true. Conservatives, in my opinion, are the most accepting of people. They accept people of a wide range of ethnicities and religious backgrounds and sexual orientation. Conservatives, just the nature of what a conservative is it's, I want to do me and you do you. Don't care who you fuck. Don't care who you stick your dick in. Don't care what God you worship. Don't care what color your skin is. You do you, and I'll do me. Now, if this fucking journey of life brings us together and now we have to build an alliance or we have a partnership in business or we train together, then different groups of people are brought together for different reasons. But don't misconstrue the truth of what a conservative is. They want to focus on their journey. You focus on your journey. And if life brings us together, cool. And if it doesn't, cool. Not everybody has to be fucking best friends. That's such a misconception. Not everybody has to love everybody else's lifestyle. I can tell you, like, we've talked about it on the show a lot. Do gay people bother me? No, of course not. I've had a gay guest on. Sebastian's a friend of mine. No conservatives give a shit about that stuff. Now, do I think that the gay lifestyle is something that I would enjoy or something that I should partake in? No, of course not. The thought of that is repulsive to me. And that doesn't mean that I dislike you. Some of my friends like food that is repulsive to me. Some of my friends like activities like karaoke that I think's fucking retarded. We don't all have to like everything. Just because you like fucking men, cool. I like fucking women. We don't have to agree. I don't have to like what you like. You don't have to like what I like. But that doesn't mean that we have a problem with each other. And that's one of the ways that they twist the narrative, is that if I don't partake in your lifestyle, or here's another one, if I think it's bizarre, then I somehow hate you. I don't like you. I'm a racist. I'm a bigot, all that stuff. And it's all fake, guys. It's all by design. Yeah, if you're a man who wants to take a bunch of hormones and cut your dick off and wear a dress and put makeup on and change your name to a woman's name, that's fucking bizarre to me. That's bizarre. I can't tell you that I don't think it's bizarre. That doesn't mean I don't like you. That doesn't mean I wish you ill will. None of that stuff. That means I think it's fucking bizarre. I can't think things are bizarre in this world. I think things are bizarre that my friends and my family do all the time. But as soon as you think something is bizarre that a minority does, or a group like that falls under the LGBTQ umbrella, now you're just an unaccepting racist homophobe. And they put these titles on you, and it causes division. I've talked about it a lot. A JiuJitsu academy is a melting pot. Basic training platoon is a melting pot. A police department is a melting pot. I've lived my life and I've been exposed to a lot of different people, different ideas, and I just have never seen people unwilling to accept people for who they are. I don't see it. So for whatever reason, that's where we've arrived at, but it's just not true. Now, the war on masculinity. Why did I want to talk about the war on masculinity? Because I think it's important to know that in our core, the ability to do violence on others is what keeps us safe. It's what keeps us secure. It's what keeps corruption in check. When I became very good at fighting, people don't talk shit to me anymore. People aren't aggressive to me anymore. People, even in corporate professional settings, I'm in a meeting in a supervisor's office, you get talked to a little differently than the person that doesn't have capabilities. And that's because I don't care what your professional title is. At the end of the day, our monkey brains are assessing and assigning a position in the pecking order. And it's a healthy thing. You know, I'm going to talk to Cain Velasquez probably a little differently than I'll talk to a guy that weighs 100 pounds who's never trained anything a day in his life. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to be a dick to that guy or that I'm going to bully him. It doesn't mean any of that stuff. It means as I negotiate this conversation, if I'm talking to Cain Velasquez, I know that if at any moment he decides he wants to kill me with his bare hands, he can do that. Okay, I don't like that as a man. That's not a good position to be in. So how do I negotiate those waters and make sure that he doesn't kill me with his bare hands? Now, we live in a time where men and women aren't killing each other with their bare hands. But guess what? People have been doing that to each other from the beginning of time. So we're still hardwired, and our instinct is still driven by, can this guy fuck me up? Okay, he can. So now I have a couple different options. I either need to out-strategize him to defeat him, or I need to build an alliance with him and get on his team and bring him on my team. That's how human beings work. Somebody that is weak and doesn't provide value and is not a concern in that realm, I don't need to build an alliance with them. I don't need to make sure that I interact with them in a certain way. If it goes good, it goes good. Cool, right? If it doesn't, I don't fucking care. Fuck you. And so masculinity has been important to our survival since the beginning of time. And now, somehow being an alpha is toxic. Now, I'm the first to say I don't consider myself alpha because I feel like alpha is it's a fluid position. Leader of the pack is a fluid position, right? You look at a wolf pack, there's an assigned alpha, but other wolves are always biting at trying to get that position, and they might fight for it, and you might win, you might lose, right? But I look at it like this. In some scenarios, I'm very alpha. I'm in control. I'm calling the shots. When I'm with my family, I'm the alpha. When I'm at my JiuJitsu academy, I would say more often than not, I'm the alpha. But when I go visit Joao in his academy, guess what? He's the alpha now. And I'm okay with that. Alpha males, true alpha males, in my opinion, are alpha when they're best suited to be. And then when they're best suited to be a follower, you roger up and you say, hey, I got it. Some very, very good leaders that I've worked for over the years, when it's time for them to be a follower, and they struggle with that. Because some men get used to being in a leadership position, and then when it's time to be a follower, they're like, well hold on. And it checks their ego, right? True alphas, in my opinion, and this goes for men or women, is I take charge when I need to. I lead when I'm most competent and I'm in a scenario that best suits my leadership. But the second that somebody else is in the picture that has the higher capability for mission success, I'm going to fall in line with what he says. And my team leader in Ramadi, his call sign was Rancher. I can give his call sign. I won't give his real name, but he was a unit guy, and he grew up in the Ranger Regiment. Then he went to the unit, and then he took over this team. And I'm still friends with him to this day. He visited me last summer. We went out fishing, and I can tell you, it's actually kind of funny because now I'm now 40 and he's probably 50. When we worked together, I was 24 and he was 34, and we were in Ramadi, fucking running and gunning. That guy was a fucking hero to me. Most tactical person I know, fucking savage in all realms of being a warrior, but just a great leader who, like I said in the beginning of the show, he was on my team. It wasn't him and us. He was a team member, and he helped this team get success and achieve success. We all went home. And when you're deployed, that's what fucking mission success means. And so for the first time in my life, when we were hanging out last summer, I remember thinking we were out on my boat. I was like, man, I kind of feel like we're equals now. It took a relationship that spans fucking 15, 17 years to now I feel like we're on the same page, and now we're equals. Fucking 15 years removed from the war. But the truth is, if he called me and said, hey, Greg, grab your AR, grab your kit, grab your vest, meet me here at this time because I need you to do this, bro, there wouldn't be questions asked. Roger that. Because he is a better leader than me. He is better. He is more capable than me, and he's more tactical than me, and he has a better vision on a lot of things than me. It's important to know the pecking order, and the pecking order is established out of masculinity. So you can say whatever you want, but the pecking order is a healthy thing. When you don't have a pecking order, people don't know where they fit in. When people don't fit in, they feel lost. And I know it's not a popular thing to say. I say it all the time. We are not all equal. Okay? I'm not saying that with a racial undertone or a sexual orientation. I'm saying human beings are not all equal. I'm not 300 pounds of muscle like Brock Lesnar. Both my legs and both my arms work. Like, I had Paul Gardner on last week or 2 weeks ago now. He's been paralyzed from the waist down since he was 21 years old. Life circumstances throw different problems at different people, and we are not all equal. He has to do things in a very different manner than I have to do things, and vice versa. And so when we understand that we're not all equal, and again, unpopular thing to say, but it's a truth. I mean, when you try and join the military, if you have any physical ailments, you're out. Now, why would that be? That's because we're not all equal. Your body is not functioning at a level where the U.S. government has deemed you're capable of being a warfighter. So thanks for coming, but you're out of here. One of my best friends got denied his SEAL contract because he's allergic to pistachios. We're not all equal. And that's okay. Not being equal means that we're all different. And us all being different means we all bring something different to the table. Our strengths and our weaknesses are different. It's okay. Nobody's saying you're better or you're worse. I'm saying we're not all equal. So knowing that we're not all equal means you have to establish a pecking order. Where do I fall into the tribe? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? I'm not the best fighter, but maybe I take a more cerebral approach to things. Maybe I can analyze data better. Maybe I'm good. I've always said I wasn't the greatest ranger. I didn't have the best PT scores. I was a pretty good shooter, but my skill in the regiment was I can build relationships. I get along with people. I make men on my team feel like they're part of something special. And I feel like that was always my strength. It's funny, my dad has said to me since I was a little kid, and my dad, for anyone that thinks I'm wild, my dad was a fucking 100 times wilder than me. And he'd always go, bro, you're like that fucking David Koresh motherfucker. One day I bet you'll have a compound too. And I fucking laugh about it because it's kind of ridiculous. But then I look on my life over the last fucking 20 years as an adult, and that has been my skill set, is creating alliances, building relationships, and building tribes of people. That's my skill set. That's what I bring to the table. And so to go back to why masculinity is important and why we need a pecking order is because from the beginning of time, you need to know who you are, but more importantly, you need to know who you aren't. And if there's not some type of system to provide checks and balances of who you are and who you aren't, then fuck it. Everything's out of balance and you can just be whoever the fuck you want to be. And that's where we're at in this world now. Everybody can be whatever they want. There's no checks and balances. There's no pecking order. And that's why we're seeing shit going kind of wacko. We are fucking tribal creatures. We have our monkey brains and we need to know who we are and who we aren't. You know, I talk to, and I want to hear your guys' stories. So if you're listening on Apple iTunes, when you get done, send me an email, gregandersonpodcast@gmail.com. That's the email that I open up for Q&As. And I also want to hear your stories on this because I want to share them. Almost every young man I know, without exception, almost every single young man I know had either a father or a father figure that put them in check with violence. Most of these occurred between probably ages 14 and 17. And a man in your life confronted you with violence because of your behavior. And so I can tell you my story personally. I'll never forget it. It's seared into my brain from the day it happened, and it will be seared into my brain until the day I die. I was 16 years old. My sister is 2 years older than me, so she was 18 years old. So this isn't little kid bickering back and forth. This isn't my 6 and my 9-year-old fighting in the living room. This is two almost full-grown adults, but we're both living in my dad's house still. My sister's bedroom and my bedroom shared one of those bathrooms that was in between the two rooms. And so we each had our own sink, but there was a toilet in there that was a shared toilet. And I can't remember what started the argument, but we were in the bathroom and we started arguing about something, and my sister pushed me. And I remember thinking, like, fuck you. I don't give a fuck if you're a girl. You're going to fucking push me? Boom. And I hit her. Now, I didn't fucking break her jaw or knock her teeth out. It wasn't crazy, but it was just kind of a reaction, like, boom, like a light hit. And I punched her. I was like, fuck you. Fucking put your hands on me. Dad was in there about 2 seconds later. And she looked at him and goes, he just punched me. And he looked at me. And it wasn't like, hey, did you hit her? Hey, let me hear your side of the story. No, none of that. That's Dad. He could tell by the look in my eyes, I fucking hit her. And he fucking just rushed me, grabbed me by the neck, slammed me into the wall, and picked me up. Now, my dad was a mechanic, and he turned wrenches his whole life, and he was a commercial fisherman. He fucking smoked cigarettes and drank whiskey all the time. He got in 1,000 street fights growing up. He was a hard man. He didn't go to CrossFit or JiuJitsu, but he knew what fucking people up was. And 2 seconds after he put his hands on me, I realized I have bitten off way more than I can chew. 10 times as strong as me, 10 times as aggressive as me, and had the demeanor to make me want to crumble. Held me up against the wall. My feet are in the air by my throat. He's like, you want to fucking hit girls? Fucking hit me, you know? And, dude, terrified. Immediately, I was like, nope, I want no part of fighting Dad. And I cowered. And I was not ready to confront Dad for the alpha position in that household. So what does that mean? If you are not ready to confront the alpha in that household, that means fall in line with the alpha of that household or get the fuck out. That's what that means. It's one of two things. You either fall in line with the alpha or you fucking fly the coop and you go figure it out on your own. And not very many 16-year-olds. I know a bunch of people, oh, I moved out at 16. Yeah, congratulations. Most 16-year-olds aren't ready to go navigate life on their own. So I talk about that with almost every single one of my male friends. That's not a story that's unique to me. In fact, it's the opposite. Every single one of my male friends is like, oh yeah, I told my dad that I wasn't going to come home at his curfew time and that he could fuck off. And he fucking beat my ass. 14 years old, 15 years old, 16 years old. Every single one of my friends has the my dad beat my ass story. So my dad beat my ass is what keeps young men in check. My dad beat my ass is what makes young men respect his rules and the house's rules that he has set up. It's a healthy thing. Now, I'm not saying, because people fucking draw these crazy conclusions. You said that beating your kids was good. No, motherfucker. I said when you're a young man and you want to fucking challenge your dad and he whoops up on you, that's healthy. I'm not talking about abuse. I'm not talking about bullying. I'm not talking about using your physical strength and your physical dominance to like project yourself on your family. None of that stuff. If people do that, then they're fucked up. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying most healthy men that grew up in a household with a father got put in check by the use of physical violence. So how many people have you heard talk about one of the downfalls of our society is fatherless homes? Now, I don't have any data on this. I don't know exactly when this big shift took place, when there are a lot of households that are fatherless. But I can tell you right now, if 16-year-old Greg didn't have a dad to keep him in check, Rita Anderson, my mom, she wouldn't have had a snowball's chance in controlling me. She wouldn't have had a snowball's chance in hell at telling me what time I need to be home or where I can go, any of that stuff. And it's because she didn't have the capability of controlling me under the threat of violence. The other thing that it does, and what's interesting is when I share the story with people, almost everybody says it only had to happen one time. One specific incident that's seared in their mind was kind of the turning point where they knew, okay, I guess I'm not ready to challenge dad. And for me, I had that one turning point, and I probably wasn't confident in beating up my old man until I was 25 years old. He got that like fucking mind control over me. Last time you challenged me, it went bad. But the thing is, by the time I was physically capable and I knew, okay, I could fuck that up now, I didn't have a desire to, I didn't have a need to. That wasn't a viable thing in my life because I was now an adult on my own journey, doing my own thing. There shouldn't be a confrontation at that point in my life that requires me to beat up my father. So I think it's a healthy thing for young men to go through. And then it puts that in their mind, okay, I'm not there yet. And by the time you do feel you're there, it should be a moot point. You shouldn't need to do something like that to your father as a 25-year-old man. Now, if you do, then, I mean, there's all kinds of crazy family scenarios that play out. But you know what I'm saying. So working out, part of being a capable man, part of being a man that can protect his family and protect his loved ones is working out. You have to have a body that works. I've said this a lot of times on the show. The original piece of combat equipment is the human body. You have to have a body that functions well. It has to have a certain level of strength to it. It has to have a certain level of cardiovascular fitness so it can sustain output for a period of time. If you're not willing to create a body that's able to do those things, then you're not going to be able to be a protector and a provider and someone that can ensure security and someone that can take care of your family. But you know what else you can't do? You can't put that 16-year-old in check and say, hey, motherfucker, sit down, cut it out. Don't fucking talk to your mother like that. Do you understand me? Look me in my eyes. Don't fucking talk to me or your mother like that. If you do again, you're going to have a fucking problem. If you don't have a mind and a body that's capable of saying that to a 16-year-old kid, if you're a skinny, fat dad bod that just works at Microsoft and eats fucking donuts and deep fried bullshit all day, and it looks like you swallowed a bowling ball, and your son is a high school wrestler, you can't say that to him because he could say, oh yeah, well fucking do something about it. He'll double leg you and put you on your fucking head in your own house. And in that moment, you are no longer alpha. You have just conceded that he is king of the hill now. How can you fucking allow that? You can't allow that. And that is, I mean, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse that I have 3 daughters, but I think about that when I was having kids. I'm like, I will never have a son that lives in this household that could defeat me in a fist fight. I can't, the fucking universe is out of alignment if the son in your household could beat you up. And so I came across this article and it was talking about toxic masculinity and it must be eradicated. Eradicated is the word that it used. And I'm not saying that this is some overarching theme that's sweeping across our country. I'm not saying very many people believe this at all. Most people would read this article and think that lady is a fucking moron, or maybe man, because it's the user that wrote it. Their name is Kirk, but who knows with titles and fucking pronouns and everything, who's what. But it says physical fitness creates a cycle of toxic masculinity that must be eradicated. Toxic masculinity refers to cultural norms in a patriarchal society that equates masculinity with control, aggression, and violence. Men are conditioned from a young age to believe that emotion, compassion, and empathy are somehow unmanly. Now, I will agree with some of what was said in this. I do think that we need to do a better job as men teaching our young men about compassion, about empathy, about emotion. I do agree with that, but it's a dichotomy. To be balanced with emotion, compassion, and empathy, you need to be able to assert aggression, control, and violence when you need to. You shouldn't have one without the other. You should find a balance of the two. So the article goes on to say, one of the main tactics used by those in power of a male-driven society is the exploitation of physical strength. Western governments use propaganda to perpetuate a narrative that men must work out to maintain a level of physical fitness if they want to be respected in society. This belief was created purposefully as a way to ensure that the patriarchal agenda lives on by continuing to force women into submission via intimidation. All right, so let's unpack that a little bit. Western governments use propaganda to perpetuate that men must maintain a higher level of physical fitness. From the fucking beginning of time, living on this planet required a certain amount of physical fitness. If you wanted to defeat the rival horde that was coming over the hill with fucking sticks and stones, if you wanted to go out on a fucking hunt and provide food for your loved ones, if you wanted to go even foraging all day, walking through the mountainsides, picking fucking mushrooms and berries, to be successful in life required your body to function since the beginning of time. And then in the last fucking 65 years, we've just turned our back on our physical bodies and said, fuck them. We don't need them anymore. We have the internet and we have McDonald's drive-thru and we have cars. What do we need our physical bodies for? And the fact that people can take such an important aspect of being a person, and that is a body that functions, and write it off and think that it is no longer important. Your head is up your own fucking ass. My wife likes to watch that show, My 600-Pound Life, and I hate it. But I also get sucked into it sometimes. And it is mind-boggling to me that the human being, our society has progressed so far away from turmoil and struggle to this world where you can literally eat yourself into a blob that doesn't work anymore. A blob that can't even stand up and walk. From the beginning of time, if your body didn't work anymore, you're left to the wolves. You think you're going to be in a nomadic culture that fucking has to migrate across the Arctic tundra every spring in search of fucking game and different plants as a 600-pound person that can't stand up? No, you're literally left to the wolves. That's normal. That's healthy. But we've created a society that just perpetuates this utter disgusting weakness. And now people can eat themselves into a blob who can't even stand up. And that's normal? Like, we can fucking just, hey, that's sad. Her story's sad. That sucks. Yeah, I agree with all that stuff. It is sad and it does suck. But how have we arrived at a place where the majority of Americans have eaten themselves nearly to death? More adult Americans are obese than are fit. Think about that. That's fucking insane. And hey, if you're overweight and you're listening, I'm not busting your balls. I'm not saying you're a terrible person, but you better fix it. You need to fix it because you have one shot on this planet, this journey that we're all on together, this fucking meat suit that we're stuck inside of for 75 years. Does it work or does it not work? And if it doesn't work and you have the ability to make it work, well, let's fucking go. Let's figure out how to make it work. And if you want to sit there and spew excuses after excuses after excuses, I'll give you Paul Gardner's number. He's 40. He's the same age as me, who had his spine shot out when he was 21 years old. And he hasn't taken a step in the last 19 years. Guess what I see him doing? He's at the gym getting after it. He's fucking lifting weights. And you know what he said to me last time we talked? He said, hey, bro, next time I'm in town, I'd like to try some JiuJitsu with you. And he goes, I got obvious restrictions, but if you can show me how to work with what I got and you can show me some moves that will work for me, I'd love to learn them. You know how many fucking people are unwilling to better themselves, that have a fully functioning body? Meanwhile, he has a half functioning body and he wants me to teach him jiu-jitsu. Guys, we cannot allow the social norms of laziness, unhealthy foods, and then just acceptance of being fat and weak to become our reality. I shared it a couple weeks, or no, probably 1 week ago on my Instagram. Fucking mannequins at like Walmart and Macy's. They're making them with bellies now, and not just like, oh, a little belly. No, like big fat guts, big fat fucking weaklings. That's who they're portraying as normal in America. If you have a big fat gut because you don't work out and you eat shit, that's not normal. We don't have to accept that as normal and promote that as the image of our society. When I was a kid, the mannequins looked like Superman. And I remember thinking like, man, that fucking mannequin is jacked. I remember thinking like, man, I wonder if I'll be that jacked someday. Like, something that I talk about often is if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. The same goes for athletics. The same goes for jiu-jitsu. The same goes for how much you contribute to your circle of friends. If I'm giving, and the people that I'm around are just taking, that's not going to be a very successful or sustainable relationship. No, we need to be in this together. And I want you to be smarter than me. I want you to make more money than me. I want you to be able to beat me in a fist fight. I want you to be able to beat me in a foot race. If I'm hanging around those people, guess what? I have one choice: get better, get on their level. When I was in Montana last week, we were joking. I live in a normal neighborhood. My house is 2,200 square feet, and it's a nice house. Like, I like my house. I'm not bitching about it. I'm not complaining. But in my circle of friends, I have the smallest and least expensive house. My daughter, my 9-year-old daughter, says to me, why don't we have a mansion like your friends? And I said, whoa, hold on. What are you talking about? You do have a mansion. Your house is 2,200 square feet and it's fucking beautiful. And she goes, yeah, but it's not like your friends. They have like outdoor fireplaces. They have big backyards. She goes, why don't we have a house like that? So I had to talk to her about perspective. And I said, well, just so you can understand, the living room that you're sitting in right now, asking why we don't have a mansion, the other side of the world, that's their entire house. And about 17 people live in that. So you need to understand, you may not have the biggest house, but you have a very, what's the word that I'm looking for? You have a suitable house. You have a house that provides all the needs that you need to grow up and be successful. Now, do I want to make more money? Do I want to have a nicer yard? Of course I do. I think we should always be striving to be better. But it's just bizarre that in her little brain, she already wants better too, right? But you can't make someone understand perspective by simply talking words into their fucking ears. They need to feel that perspective firsthand. So, to continue with this fucking toxic masculinity rant, it continues to say, women are on average intellectually superior to men. This intellectual maturity allows them to have a greater hold on their emotions when faced with confrontation. In comparison, the fragility of toxic masculinity creates an atmosphere where men feel they need to prove themselves as alpha, resulting in extreme aggression and physical confrontations. So I hope this lady gets mugged by a violent offender. That's what I hope happens. And I hope the man that she chose to walk with her down that dark alley to their car has fucking spaghetti noodle arms, a gut, and has never done anything athletic in his life. And then I hope they get beaten, and I hope the aggressor takes their wallet, takes their purses, and racks up a bunch of charges on their credit card. You know why? Because fuck you. First of all, women are intellectually superior to men. As soon as you say something like that, what you're doing is you're dividing. Men over here, women over here. And that's just such a stupid thing to say. Are women emotionally superior to men in some capacities? 100%. The masculine and the feminine go together. They mesh and it creates the whole. I mean, literally, that's how we fucking have families and procreate. But that's also how we create an environment that is stable. It needs a masculine influence and it needs a feminine influence. That's why, in my opinion, a household with both parents is optimal. Now, there's a million stories about how I'm a single mom and I'm struggling, but I'm making it happen. And that's fucking rad. And I know some of those single moms and some of those people are I hold dear to my heart. But guess what you do if you're in that situation? You balance that feminine and that masculine energy through coaching, through sports. Get your boys into JiuJitsu, things like that. So they still have that masculine and that feminine influence. But just saying one side's right and one side's wrong, what you're doing is you're cutting yourself short. She says, women hold on to their emotions when faced with confrontation. Well, I guess that depends on what confrontation we're talking about. When it comes to a violent encounter, there are situations where I would rather have my wife with me. And then there are situations where I would rather have Youre Out Now with me. And then there are other confrontations where I'd rather have Rancher with me. And it just depends on what the fuck you're talking about. To say that women hold their emotions better when faced with confrontation, it just depends on what that confrontation is. I guarantee you, when I was running Route Michigan in Ramadi, Iraq, I don't want my fucking wife with me there. That's not who's going to help me with that confrontation because she can maintain her emotions. Get the fuck out of here. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And it says this reaction. So when they said that proving yourself as alpha it will result in extreme aggression and physical confrontation. This reaction is enhanced when levels of testosterone are increased in the male body through physical fitness. Studies have shown signs of aggression in male dogs decreased exponentially when castrated. Dr. Nicholas Doveman, a veterinarian and behavior specialist, says neutering your male dog has valuable behavioral benefits. It can minimize numerous unwanted behaviors, prevent frustrations, and improve your quality of life. And then she says the same logic can be applied here, that lower levels of testosterone will create a happier man and a safer society. So there you have it. I guess she is suggesting we all cut our fucking balls off and then everything will be great. But here's the problem, people. And the reason I read that, because it's indicative of a bigger problem in society. Again, that's an isolated incident. That's one article from some crazy fucking bitch, right? But it's indicative of a bigger problem in society. And that is, if you embrace softness and you embrace weakness, and we're chasing being happier, and we're chasing being safer, what that's doing is it's making us all less capable as Americans, less capable as a people. And we can't have that. We need to be known as motherfuckers still. Americans have always been known as motherfuckers. Like even back in World War II, when they were talking about a Japanese invasion, they said, well, we don't want to wake the sleeping giant, meaning the American people, because we all have guns. We all have capabilities. There's a video on YouTube. It's high school gym class of 1962, somewhere in California. Watch that video. Every kid had a six-pack. You could see every kid's deltoids bulging in his shoulders when he's doing the rope climb. You could see smiles on their faces because they were young, vibrant, fit, and healthy. Try to recreate that now. I would be fucking shocked to have just your average high school gym class stand there in they were basically wearing Ranger panties, and they were all fit, healthy, and vibrant. That's what young men and women should be, is young, healthy, fit, vibrant men and women ready to attack their future. But what we're doing is we're pumping all of our kids full of unhealthy foods. We're pumping all of our kids full of fucking pharmaceuticals and fucking hormones and bullshit. We're letting them eat all of these foods that are just full of high fructose corn syrup and additives and preservatives. And us as a society are starting to see the effects. Here we are, 30, 40 years later, after some of these changes have been implemented. When the higher percentage of your society is obese than is fit, we're doomed, right? What are you going to do if you're presented with a survival scenario, right? And I love talking about survival scenarios, not because of I'm a doomsday prepper and I want to scare you. I love talking about it because here's the reality. If you are prepared for things, then you're no longer afraid of them. As soon as you're no longer afraid of them and you're not controlled by fear, now you apply logic to stuff. Hey, power's going to go out for a year. Okay, this is what happens. Hey, we run out of food. Okay, that's what happens. You need, by having capabilities, what that makes you is someone that's not controlled by fear anymore. And if you look at what's happening in our society over the last fucking 24 months, it's fear, 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 fear. No matter what's happening, you need to be afraid of it because it might kill you. It might kill your grandparents. And obviously, I'm referring to COVID to a large extent. But I saw Monday. Like I'm recording this. This is Wednesday. Okay. On Monday, fucking 2 days ago, we had a crazy heat wave in Washington. It got to 115. It was 115 when I was in Bellevue, which is pretty unheard of in Washington, right? The governor, don't let any crisis go to waste, right? Gets on TV on MSNBC and was like, today's heat wave is the beginning of a permanent emergency crisis. Fuck, dude. It's never going back to normal. We're in a permanent emergency. Think about that. That in itself, that phrase, like the phrase or the word emergency in itself indicates that something is occurring for a moment of time. This is a state of emergency, meaning it might last a day, a week, maybe fucking a year, right? But I don't think you can say a permanent emergency because those two things kind of cancel each other out, right? If something shifts in society, even if it shifts for the worse, let's go to fucking the Terminator scenario where fucking robots take us over and we're in a nuclear holocaust. If that day happens, we're not in a state of emergency. This is now called life in a post-apocalyptic America. So what do? How do we navigate through this? This isn't an emergency. This is our existence. But see, if you think about things logically like that, then you're not afraid. But they want you to be terrified of the weather. They want you to be terrified of the Delta variant. The Delta variant that so far the data shows to be less lethal than the last variant. But it doesn't matter because people are taking their masks off. People are opening up their businesses. And you can't have that. You can't have free thinking people willing to step outside of the box and make some decisions for themselves. You can't have that. And so they need to fucking shut us down again with the Delta variant. Get everybody afraid. Make everybody feel scared and live in fear. And you know what's really shocking to me is that it worked as well as it did. They scared the shit out of everybody in 2020. And most people fucking bought it hook, line, and sinker to the point where they are defending parts of the narrative that have now been debunked. Some of Fauci's shit that has been debunked. People will still defend it. You know why? Because they bought it. That was their reality. That was their truth. And even now that it's no longer being projected by the fucking liberal left leadership, that was their truth. They still have to defend it. Nope, Fauci's just fucking great, isn't he? Even those emails came out with him saying some pretty fucked up things, which I'm not even going to get into because I'm sure all you guys saw it. But you got to be able to step away from your truth and say, you know what? I looked at this wrong. Or I was believing a narrative that was proven to not be the correct way that I should be thinking. And I'm okay with that. And I was wrong. I've said from the beginning of this, I will always admit when I was wrong on stuff. Admitting when you're wrong is one of the most empowering things you can do. Because then nobody can have that, ha, gotcha. You didn't get me, I was wrong, I'm sorry. And for you to hold power in your words and hold power in who you are as a person, you hold more power if you fucking stand strong by your convictions, but also admit your faults and admit your defeats. Admit when you're incorrect. I don't know if you guys have watched Sean Zimmer in Canada, but fucking Canada's on a full-on fucking tyrannical escapade. Here we are 2 years into this thing, and this guy can't work out in his backyard with his friends. The police show up every fucking day and they give him a citation. They're finding him more and more money. And here's the thing. He's not even running a business. Go check him out. Sean J. Zimmer, I believe his name is, on Instagram. And he's this big yoked Viking looking fucker. He talks like this. He has the lowest voice you've ever heard. And I've talked with him a little bit back and forth on Instagram. He's cool as shit, but he's not giving in at all. He's saying, fuck you. Our health and our fitness are more important. Our masculinity is important. You're not neutering us. And guys, I go back and forth on this because I am just like anybody else. I look at situations and I say, is this a master plan to make us weak and docile? Is this a master plan to make us fucking bend a knee to the government? Or is this just a shit show that has kind of perpetuated itself and we have the wrong people in charge and they're pushing the wrong agendas and we're just kind of in this current state of chaos? Is it planned or is it not planned? I don't know. And the reason I say I don't know is because anytime you say something's planned by the government, I tend to think I'm giving them too much power and too much credibility. But fuck, they sure hate the guys that want to promote free thinking and physical fitness. Look at Ian Smith. They've fucking been trying to shut that guy's mouth from day one. And all he's doing is running a gym. It's not like that guy. I mean, you would think how hard they're going after that guy, that he's like raising a militia to overthrow the government. No, he just wants people to be able to think for themselves and keep their bodies healthy. What a fucking shocking concept, huh? And so you're seeing all of these people that are gym owners, martial arts studios, especially in Canada. Why is Canada so much worse than us? Is it just because they don't have as much of a spirit of defiance as we do? But then you have to ask yourself, why do they not want men to grow into healthy, capable men? And maybe it is a master plan. You know, I had, we're already an hour and a half into this. This is quite the rant. I'll probably wrap it up after this, guys, because solo episodes, I don't tend to go for 2 hours at a time. But I had a methamphetamine addict steal more shit from my property. I'm not talking about the fuckface that stole a bunch of shit from my boat. And you're going to get yours someday, probably. But this is a new one. And I did my own investigation. I figured out who he was, figured out where he lived, because I got security cameras and was able to put it all together, right? Come to find out, this is his fifth felony of 2021 alone. He has 2 other domestic violence assaults and 2 other identity thefts in 2021 alone. He's just out walking around, living life, fucking more people's days up, and then he fucked my day up. And he broke into a couple cars that were in my parking lot of my gym, stole a young girl's purse, went and spent a bunch of money on her credit cards. I do my own investigation because I was a criminal investigator for a decade. Figure out who it is. Call the police. Hey, this is him. This is where he lives. And the cop was cool. I'm not going to say he wasn't a cool guy, but he's like, well, we're going to see what we can do and put together all of these facts that you've compiled, and we'll probably have enough for PC to get an arrest warrant. And I'm like, probably? You probably have enough? I have video footage of this motherfucker on my property. His MO is stealing people's credit cards. It's clearly 100% this guy. Here he is. I have a close-up of his face on one of my security cameras. Well, but we don't necessarily have footage of him breaking into the car. Okay, well, I can tell you he's not a member of my gym. He's never fucking signed up for a trial class. He's never signed a liability waiver. Out of 300 people at my academy, not one person knows him. Trust me when I tell you, he had no business walking around my property looking at shit, scratching his arms like he's high on meth, and behaving in a way that is not congruent with somebody that is doing CrossFit or jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I know. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to get an arrest. Okay, it's been 2 weeks. I haven't heard anything. Our society continues to perpetuate this current state that we're in Washington, where people can victimize you, people can steal your shit, people can come on your property and break your belongings and fuck with your customers and your clients, and nobody's doing anything about it. 5 felonies in 2021 alone. What does that mean he has for overall felonies? I don't even know. But that's the reality that we've created. And if you don't think a fucking breaking point is coming, then you don't know the men and women that I hang out with, because I'm not going to let people steal my fucking shit so they can just get kicked out of jail, not get charged, and continue to victimize the rest of society. You as a young, fit, capable person needs to be willing to defend your stuff, stand up against violence, and say, we're fucking done with this shit. That is why they call it toxic masculinity. They don't want you to be able to protect your stuff. They don't want you to be able to fucking defend your household. And I've even been told, oh, Greg, listen, if you see that guy, don't do anything to him. Don't do anything to him, because then you're just going to get in trouble. Are you fucking... Sounds like you're on meth now. The fuck are you talking about? Don't do anything to him. He just broke into a 17-year-old girl's car and stole a bunch of her shit, spent a bunch of her money. Don't do anything to him. You know how many fucking people have told me that? Don't do anything to him, because then you're going to get in trouble. Just, even friends that are tough dudes, even like police officers and shit, don't do anything to him. Well, I'll tell you what, I will do something to him if I fucking see him. And then if you want to come and arrest me, then I'm going to fucking do something to you too, because the whole system is backwards. When I don't have the ability to protect my family, my business, my friends, I don't have the ability to do that anymore. If I do something to him, I'm the bad guy all of a sudden. 5 fucking felonies in 6 months. And if I do something to him, I'm going to get in trouble. You know what that is? That's everybody just pandering, being controlled, and being fucking pussies. And I'm sick of it. I'm fucking sick of it. If you come to my gym and you break into my people's cars, I'm going to fucking smash your skull open. I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't give a fuck that you're addicted to drugs. I'm done with this game that we're all playing. And it's what it is. It's a game that we're all playing. And if you live in San Francisco, if you live in Los Angeles, if you live in Seattle, you know what game I'm talking about. Where we just let these fucking pieces of vermin run amok and just do whatever the fuck they want and victimize people day in and day out. And then we just have to sit back and take it. When I heard he had 5 fucking felonies in 2021 alone, I came to a conclusion. I'm done with your fucking game. I'm done with your game. You want me to write a big fucking report and a statement and provide all the facts and circumstances that I was able to gather? Okay, I'll do that. But we have to be done with their fucking games. The elected officials in these fucking liberal states are not protecting us anymore. They are not taking care of crime in a manner it needs to be taken control of. And so I would say, if you are not willing or capable of protecting yourself and dealing with these things personally, well, guess what? Your local and state government aren't going to do it. Your fucking president's not going to do it. It's up to you. It's up to us. You need to be capable. You need to be willing. And you need to have the ability to stand up and say, we're fucking done with your game. And that's where I want to leave it today, guys. I'm done with the day, or I'm done with the game. I guess I'm done with the day too. But we can't allow a certain percentage of society, who is probably the minority, to continually weaken us. Shame us for being healthy men. Shame us for being violent. Shame us for owning guns. Shame us for wanting to protect our property from drug addicts. No, we can't do any of that stuff anymore. We just have to bend over and take it. And just be a good little boy. And then one day it's going to sort itself out. Well, I'd like to know when that day is going to be. Because if I look at Seattle and I look at the trajectory it's on, I don't see that day coming anytime soon. Other than that, guys, I got a list written out here. I got some more shit that we could fucking go over, but I think I'm going to save that till next time. Next week's episode, I'm pretty excited about. Andy let me use the Cleared Hot studio in Kalispell, and I did an episode with one of the Straight Blast Black Belts, who's also a police officer. And I can tell you just a little gem from that episode that is actually refreshing. Policing in Kalispell is fucking rad still. He loves his community. He loves his job. So for any of you cops out there that were like me, that are fed up with Seattle, San Francisco, and all the fucking radical liberal left cities that are just looking for a reason to string you up, there's still hope. There's still places that respect the profession and respect what you do. So be looking for that episode coming out next week. And until next time, thanks for listening, guys.